Welcome to the Hockey Writers What's Kraken, a weekly show with our top Seattle Kraken writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from the first ever puck drop to their future rivalries, our team covers everything that happens with the Kraken. So sit back, relax, and get ready to find out what's Kraken.
Welcome to the THW What's Kraken show, hosted by me, Tom Pepper, Sean Raggio, and Adam Kierszenblat. Presented by the Hockey Writers, we talk Seattle Kraken hockey every week on iHeartRadio, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to check out our written work at thehockeywriters.com and follow the show on Twitter at What's Kraken Show, as well as our personal account at Tom Pepper, at Raggio9124, and at Adam K. Blatt. So I'm assuming you've realized our episode is now published on a Wednesday. So we have moved the recording date. We do Tuesday nights now. So you will be getting your What's Kraken every Wednesday, and we like the ring to that. So
What's Kraken Wednesdays.
Yep. So that's all good. So now you know going forward. But yeah, let's get this thing started. So how have your weeks been? I'll go to you, Adam.
It's been good. You know, obviously we're sitting here with the big Chicago Blackhawks story. I do want to give a special thanks to Kyle, who works at the Hockey Writers. He's basically in charge of a lot of the content here, because back in the summer, he let me write an article and help me write an article about the NHL and the problems around the sexual assault that the NHL is going through. So I was really lucky that Kyle kind of helped me with that, and now the whole story has just blown up. So it will be interesting to see where it goes there. If you do want to follow along, you should check out Rick Westhead and Katie Strang on Rick works for TSN, Katie works for the Athletics. They've been fantastic in covering this whole story.
Mm-hmm. Very disturbing and sad stuff to come out today. So yeah, it's not a great time in the hockey world when this kind of stuff happens. So hopefully there's a little bit more cheer on our show today. But how have you been, Sean?
You know, I've been all right. You know, so much wrong has happened. You just hope at this point people do the right thing. I didn't get to read too in the detail because it all broke while I was at work today. So it's about all I'm going to say. Just hope that at this point people are going to do the right thing. As for the last week, it's pretty typical week. Enjoying some hockey. It was interesting. I had an article published, weekly Lost and Found, and I was talking about the Blackhawks and the Maple Leafs. And a couple hours after mine was published, you had 32 Thoughts with Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick talking about the Blackhawks and the Maple Leafs. So I guess I'm an insider now. I beat him to the punch. It's going to do great things for every What's Kraken Wednesday. Tune in to hear more. Let's toss it back, Tom. How's your week been? How you holding up?
I've had a pretty good week. I'm in midterm season, so lots of studying. Had one earlier. I think it went well. Over the weekend, went to my girlfriend's film was screening that she produced in London, Ontario. So we went to a film festival there, and that was awesome. Spoke to some pretty cool people, and it was just great seeing her movie up on the big screen. Yeah, it's been this week's kind of flown by. I've just been nonstop, so I'm really happy to be doing this show here. It's good to kind of settle down and relax and just chat to you guys about Kraken hockey.
What's the name of the show of the film? Excuse me.
First Love. Yeah, she produced it in would have been 2020, I believe. So she was in another film festival before, but that was online. So this is the first time we've really been able to go in person. So.
Awesome.
We had a lot of fun. We had a good time. Had a nice hotel room and nice location. Went on some nice walks. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
And we got to watch it wasn't too bad watching the first ever Kraken home game from a suite. So it was good. And speaking of the home opener, we can get right into it here. So the Seattle Kraken home opener ended up being a 4-2 loss to the Canucks, but at least in my opinion, it was an incredible game. It was very fun. It felt more like that playoff vibe that we were feeling earlier in the season. And even in the preseason, there were some games that just had you on the edge of your seat. And yeah, the number 32 was retired before the game in memory of the fans. I really like that nod, similar to what the Seahawks did with the number 12. And the first goal at Climate Pledge Arena came from Vince Dunn with 3.2 seconds left in the first period. So also another cool thing with the 32 being retired. I thought that caught my eye. But I will go to you guys and get your thoughts on this game because it was quite a wild one. So you first, Sean. What did you think of this? Was this a good start to the Kraken Canucks rivalry?
I think it was. I think that, a better result for the Kraken. I'm all sucker for a good story. Winning the home opener would have been nice, but I think that it's interesting, the adversity of losing your home opener, losing your inaugural game, and they gave a good game too. It was a competitive game, not like it was a blowout or anything. It went down to the third period. So I enjoyed it, and I've been harping on this. I just want them to be fun. Before the Kraken, for me, it was just the Rangers. It got to a point where they weren't necessarily the most fun team to watch, and not even just to play, but guys' goal celebrations, stuff like that. You'd watch a team like the Smashville Predators, let's go with. They were a fun team, right? Even Vegas, they were fun to watch. The Lightning, the last couple of years, fun team. Guys going, to 1-0 in the second period. The guy snipes one, and he's like, yeah, that's what I like. And I feel like this team is going to give a lot more of that. And, especially after that Vince Dunn goal, I think there's going to be more of that in store for the Kraken this year.
Yeah, it's another thing you mentioned with losing the home opener there, which is unfortunate for Kraken fans. But I feel like this has put a lot less pressure on the Kraken having this 1-4-1 start compared to the Golden Knights. I don't even know. I can't remember now how many games in a row it was, but they were setting NHL records. They just came in on fire straight into the NHL. And we were wondering, we had many conversations about this in episodes before the season started, what the expectations were for the Kraken this season when you compare them to the Golden Knights. And of course, they drafted very differently in the entry draft than Vegas did. And we are seeing that they are not having the same start as Vegas. And maybe it's not too fair to be comparing these two expansion franchises and their starts in the league. But it is still very early, and we'll probably mention it again later in the show. Guys like Schwartz and Eberle have yet to score, which I'm going to assume won't stay the same. But hey, I covered the Buffalo Sabres last year and said the same of Eichel and Hall. So that didn't work out. We'll see what happens. But I want to hear from you, Adam. What did you think of the Kraken's play? Did you like how they played? Were there any flaws in their play?
Well, the biggest flaw in their play was that the goal that Philip Grubauer allowed, the game winner, was kind of questionable. He's had those times where he'll save the Kraken for most of the game and then he gives up a bad goal. So it's very confusing to watch Philip Grubauer play. The stadium was incredible to watch though. There was a clip that came out from ESPN where after the first Kraken goal, you couldn't even hear the goal horn because that place was just going wild. It's built underground, so it's pretty cool. You can actually watch it from outside. But one thing that I did notice on social media, because it was Vince Dunn who scored the first goal, and it was about 3 seconds before the end of the period, there were a lot of, the period isn't done yet, tweets that were going out there. So it's good to see that people are coming up with the hockey puns. They're getting into the games, and that they're really embracing this brand new team.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of getting into the games, I absolutely loved the crowd in Seattle. I thought they were really fun. I loved how the building erupted anytime someone laid a hit, especially Brandon Tanev. And also just everyone just seemed fired up and hyped to have hockey back in Seattle. So I love to see that. But do you have any comment on that, Sean? What did you think of the crowd?
I thought they were amazing. I thought that it's, a 1-4-1 start, you're not sure what you're going to get. Obviously there's hype, but our fans going to be as loyal for a team that struggles out of the gate. And I think that these fans are going to be ride or die fans. I really do. And that's all I got. You can only elaborate on that so much. I think that they're going to be, I don't think that the Kraken are necessarily going to keep this 1-4-1 type play. I did have them projected for the playoffs, but I definitely think that it could be a Buffalo Sabres type season. It could be a Tampa Bay Lightning type season. I think these fans are going to be with them for the long haul. They got passionate fans there, and it's great to see them rooting for hockey now instead of just football, baseball.
Yeah, and it'll be, if the Kraken do end up having some success here, I'm sure it'll be nice for Seattle fans to see after unfortunate Mariners missing the playoffs. Now the Seahawks aren't doing too well, so this would be a great time for the Kraken to turn things around and give some excitement in the city. And I have written in my notes here, they will have a chance for revenge. So Vancouver took the first game in Seattle, but Seattle Kraken can get their revenge December 27th. They'll play their first regular season in Vancouver, which is a while away.
Yeah.
But I think that'll be another very fun game. And lastly, before we move on to the next thing, I want to hear from Adam on this. What do you think it's going to be like when there's Canucks and Kraken fans in the building? Obviously, the Kraken fans dominated the building at the home opener, which was to be expected. But I'm assuming as the games start going on and COVID's restrictions start to lift, we'll start seeing more of this rivalry really come to life. So how do you think that's going to look?
Well, that game is, if I understand it right, that game is already pretty much sold out. We've had a little bit, we've had the restriction of 50% just lifted before the game tonight, the first Canuck home game, but it all depends on how these teams are doing. If Vancouver isn't doing well, the crowd might not be as interested. It's going to be a full arena just because it's Seattle, but people go to Canuck games sometimes if the team isn't doing well, just to like boo the team or tell the GM to get fired. Like it happens in Vancouver. Like these are very passionate fans where, but you also add in the element of the rivalry. So I do think that it's going to be very loud, and it will be interesting because we do have some people who have said that they are now Seattle Kraken fans in Vancouver. So what is the percentage of people who have made the switch? And if they have actually made the switch, this is your opportunity. Show up in a Kraken jersey to the Canuck game. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it should be very loud at Rogers Arena in December for sure.
Oh, if you thought that a fan fight in Nashville was the start, there's going to be a Donnybrook in the nosebleeds. I'm telling you, once those fans mix, Donnybrook in the nosebleeds, I'll tell you that for free right now. And
I've only been to one game where there's been a fight in the stands. That was like, I don't even know how many years ago. Like people seem very tame. It just seems like, it's like once in a while it happens, but if I could see a little bit of a tussle between Kraken and Vancouver fans at the game for sure.
I don't think I've ever seen a fan fight, but you brought up fans showing up to the game to complain, and it just brought back a memory for me. I don't know if you remember Toronto losing 9-2 to the Nashville Predators at home. That would have been.
Well, somebody threw a jersey onto the ice like the other night in Toronto.
Yeah, well, I was at the Leafs and Predators game, and it was just hilarious because once it just got to the point of no return and they were just getting absolutely blown out, it was anytime the goalie touched the puck, whether it was with a stick or it was just a pass to him, the entire crowd would just erupt. And I thought it was hilarious. And then once there was 9 goals, I think there was a chant going for Nashville to score 10 on the Leafs. And I just found it, it was pretty funny to be there and watch that. So yeah, I that just came to my mind.
Well,
I thought I'd say it.
If you guys, I don't know if you knew about this, but there was literally a banner that flew around Vancouver that said "Fire Benning" on it. So, Vancouver fans seem to take it to a whole nother level sometimes.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
Hey,
all right, we'll get back to some Kraken stuff here. So going on to our second topic, the Kraken have really been struggling at 5-on-5 hockey, and I know Adam wanted to bring up this topic, so he's probably got some good stuff to say on this. But here in the notes we have, they've been outscored 18-9 at 5-on-5. So it's not looking good for the Kraken. And there's guys like Schwartz and Eberle who still have yet to score. Yanni Gord has just joined the lineup, but he is also yet to score. So the Kraken are missing some key guys to make some key plays. But I'm going to let Adam take this one away. What's going on with the Kraken 5-on-5?
They're giving up too many high danger chances. That's the big issue. They're not generating enough high danger chances. Nobody on the team has more than one goal 5-on-5, which is kind of crazy to think going into now they're into game 7 versus Montreal. They've been outscored 18-9. The only team that has allowed more goals 5-on-5 is Chicago, and the only team, if my math is correct here, the only team that so basically they're the worst in the league when it comes to goals for percentage. The only teams that are worse are Chicago and then Tampa Bay, which nobody really knows what's going on in Tampa Bay.
A 5-1 Sabres win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. I tuned in for that.
That team is, well, you know what? They put Kucherov on LTIR so they can go and get Jack Eichel. So whatever. We're not going to talk about Tampa Bay. But yeah, one other concerning part is that their forwards aren't doing much. Jonas Donskoy is the team leader in individual high danger chances with 7. You have a guy like Jaden Schwartz, who's only created 4 individual scoring chances this season, 5-on-5. Their offense, their forwards aren't producing. 3 of the 9 goals are from defensemen. Like, it's just, they have to figure out something, whether it's mixing up the lines, whether it's changing the strategy. One pairing that I do like, which Dave Haxtell left last game, is the Jonas Donskoy, Alex Wenberg pairing, because those two seem to have a pretty strong chemistry. But other than those two, like, it's going to take some time, but there just seems like nobody is mixing properly. Like, Schwartz and Eberle can't play together. They just can't. It hasn't worked out. Yanni Gourde, we don't know who he's going to play with. Right now he's playing with Schwartz. It's not going well. Hopefully Kelly Yarncroke can maybe make something happen. We don't know if Jeremy McCann's going to play center. Nobody's mixed with Morgan Geekie. Brandon Tanev has done well, but like he's done it on multiple lines. So it's like there's no consistency in this lineup, and that can cause problems when you are playing 5-on-5.
You want to jump on that, Sean? How do you think the Kraken can fix these issues?
Yeah, I liked what you said about shaking up the lines, and I think that, it has to almost look at like no line has a number. No one's a 4th liner. No one's a 3rd liner. I think that you have to shake it up. Guys who are quote unquote top 6 players, they'll get those extra minutes, killing penalties like they're supposed to, or on the power play like they're supposed to. Guys are going to have to really buy in and accept that, I might be a top 6 on another team, but I'm clicking with a guy on the 3rd or the 4th line. And it's whether or not they're scoring, they're playing well enough to where they want to keep that line together. I'm trying to think, you mentioned Gourde not clicking with his guys. How about maybe if I kind of like the way I feel like Gourde and Tanev kind of play similarly in the sense that they have bite. I knew you'd get a kick out of that one. They both have bite to their game and skill, but I think that if you put them together and the other winger, I'm not so sure. Maybe someone who's a bit more of a pure finisher, like maybe an Eberle, or even I know you're high on Appleton. You love your apple. And I think that, take some of the physical responsibility away from Gourde as being like, obviously he's going to play physically. He likes, he was getting in everyone's faces his first game. You get Tanev to be that hard forechecker. It frees up Gourde to shoot, make plays. You put a finisher on that other line, someone's going to be open. Tanev's got speed. He's buzzing around in on the forecheck, moving. I think that I wouldn't mind seeing them try it out together. But you're 6 games into the season. I know some teams are pushing the panic button right now, and if they're not, they are tiptoeing on the line. I don't necessarily think that this team needs to do that. I wrote down, to me, the Kraken are what the Knights were supposed to be in their inaugural season, and the Knights are what we've projected the Kraken to be. And I think that there's that automatic association, for lack of a better term, that we have. Even the NHL, I can't think of the word, but they played on that even more by having that first game against the other most recent expansion team, the Knights. And I think that they have to break away from the association with the Knights and realize we got to do our own thing to make it work. Yeah, people compare us, but we're not them. We got to figure out what Kraken hockey is. We got to play Kraken hockey.
And I completely agree. I think it's actually better that the Kraken have this kind of start, because that comparison really just didn't make sense, because the players that were selected for Vegas versus Seattle, they completely different strategies. They've set their organizations up very differently. So it wasn't really a fair comparison, but I mean, it is still early. As you guys mentioned, they're going to have to try to move the lines around here. I'm going to be interested to see what happens with Schwartz and Eberle, who have been primarily on the first line, and neither of them has a goal. And we're starting to get into the early bits of the season here, and nothing's changed. So I think they're probably on their last chances here to prove themselves to Hackstall that they can play top line, or maybe they just need to be moved around. Maybe there's untapped potential and chemistry with other players. Do you want to say something, Sean?
Yeah, I know several episodes ago we kind of talked about way earlier on in our lifespan is what's cracking. We talked about how we thought they were going to make a splash at the expansion draft. Didn't. All right, it's going to happen in free agency. Not necessarily. All right, next year's free agency class is going to be it. Maybe depending on where they're at the trade deadline, maybe they're okay. I don't want to call this a throwaway year, but they're okay with seeing, all right, XYZ isn't working. We're going to go move on from them, whether it's trade to get assets, trade to get prospects. Excuse me. For someone, a veteran from the free agent class. I think that if it gets to that point, I don't necessarily think that these guys are all set in stone. It might be a bit different for someone like Schwartz, who just signed that contract, but I think it's just so much more experimental than we realize. And I feel like Ron Francis knew that, and he just wanted to let us speculate so we'd have so much to write and talk about. Shout out, Ronnie. Thank you. But I definitely think that there's something going on behind the scenes, in the sense that they are, I don't want to say okay with it, with what's happening, where they're at right now, but they realize there's a bigger picture, and they're okay to take necessary steps, or let necessary steps happen in order to get there. And this is something that we will, not just us at the hockey, everyone's going to speculate about this until it happens. But I think that there's a lot, more that we can't see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point about next year's free agency. How before a few episodes ago, we were talking about that, how that's probably going to be a huge target for Ron Francis, is doing that. And it's also interesting how many 1-year deals the Kraken have. Like even their Mark Giordano, the captain, his contract's up soon. That's one of the reasons I found it kind of interesting that he was named captain, is because his deal's up soon. He could just leave after this year. But like you said, maybe there's stuff going on behind the scenes, and there's other plans happening. But I think the roster that we see right now on the ice for Seattle could look very different in a year's time. I don't think anyone's, well, I mean, there's a few guys whose contracts have them locked in, but the Kraken really don't have very many long term contracts, and they're going to have a lot of options next season in expansion, especially if they prove that Seattle is a fun place to play this season. So do you have any last words on that, Adam?
Yeah, so I got a little bit of trivia here for you guys through the first 6 games. So 2 players on the Kraken lead the team in 5-on-5 shots. Can you guess who the 2 players are?
You want to go first, Sean?
It's like I'm back in school. I was waiting for the professor over here to pick on me. Geez, who could the first person that would come to mind? Brandon Tanev, maybe? And Jared McCann.
I was going to go Jared McCann.
And then who's the second?
I know Ryan Donato was high up there for some reason earlier in the season, but he wasn't even playing in. He was playing in a couple of games.
So through 6 games, the team leaders in shots on 5-on-5 are Mark Giordano and Adam Larson with 11 each, which illustrates the problem with the Kraken, that you don't want your 5-on-5 shot leaders to be 2 defensemen. Next on the list, and then Carson Soucy is in that second tier with 9.
Wow.
That's really interesting. I did not know these stats.
I do feel Larson has been, from what I've read up on him and what I've watched in the past, I feel like he was a lot more offensive than I anticipated from a, stay-at-home shutdown defenseman. So that's really interesting to see.
Then I think another guy that's going to probably get up there now that we're analyzing how much the defensemen are shooting is Vince Dunn, who he was out for
Vince Dunn has
got
8.
a very big offensive upside.
Mhm.
Yeah, he has 8 shots on goal in 4 games.
You think
5 on 5.
he knows that, this is step it up? Y'all there?
Yeah.
There we go. You're back. The old days of early What's Cracking.
I feel like whenever we do stats like that, we need like the more rainbow to come out, and because they're just pointless. They're useless stats that I don't know. I find very interesting, but it's just like they're just weird stats. But it's like kind of like, well, it's like, why are you telling us this kind of stat? But there's a reason, obviously. But yeah.
You mentioned Vince Dunn. Do you think he kind of knows and has a bit of pressure on him? I think he's got 2 years on his deal. He kind of knows, you have these expectations. You've fallen off a bit from what you've shown. This is kind of it to really establish yourself as what you're projected to be. Do you think he's playing with pressure, or he's playing a bit freer in the new setting? What are you guys feeling on that?
I feel like he probably just looks at this as a brand new opportunity. I mean, he was in St. Louis. He got to win the Stanley Cup. And then I feel like he was a little bit neglected the past couple seasons in St. Louis. I think a lot of fans wanted him out. And obviously they ended up letting him go out in the expansion draft. But I think this is a guy who has a lot of untapped potential. There's definitely things he needs to work on. He has a fair number of blunders, but he also has some incredible plays, and we've seen that many times throughout the season. He's also willing to get feisty. He'll drop the gloves. So he's one of those guys that'll do it all. And if he can really clean up his few defensive blunders he makes, this could be a guy. He's young still. This guy's still developing. I think he could be a huge part of the Kraken's future if he can pull it together. Mm-hmm. Any last words?
Speaking of their future, let's jump to that homestand, eh?
Let's do it. So the Kraken, who they were on the road for a while there to start the season, got the home opener out of the way, and now they are back for their second home game of the season, actually tonight. So we'll be watching that after the show, and our listeners will have already watched that. So we'll see how correct we are on predicting this outcome. So tonight they'll play the Montreal Canadiens, and they've also got the Minnesota Wild and the New York Rangers before they hit the road again. And they will need to take some wins out of this if they want to keep up and not fall too far behind, seeing as though we're starting to get into the season a bit here. So I'm going to go to you first, Adam. Can you kind of just give me a rundown? What do the Kraken need to take out of this homestand?
Well, in my opinion, they need to win 2 of 3 games. In Montreal has been struggling this season. So that's a win that you have to get. Minnesota is kind of iffy. They've been good, they've been bad in games. And then the New York Rangers is the biggest question mark. Can they match the New York Rangers energy and goaltending, basically? But I do want to talk about one thing about tonight's game against the Montreal Canadiens. Apparently, the rumor is that they're doing a ceremony honoring the 1917 millionaires. So I was on a podcast the other day and I was talking about this with them, and I was trying to do the math in my head. I'm like, well, if 1917, that means the players would be 104 years old. So I don't know if they can, come on the ice. And then they reminded me that you have to add 20 years to that because the players would be about 20. So I don't think that they're going to have any former players.
Do you mean the Metropolitans?
Yeah, Seattle Metropolitan. Did I say something?
Millionaires. I was
millionaires.
Getting thrown off. I was like, why are we?
I'm thinking of Vancouver's the Millionaires. Yeah, Seattle Metropolitans. Which I would love to see Seattle pull out the Metropolitan jerseys in the future. Maybe when
Winter
they
Classic.
maybe when they do the Winter Classic versus Vancouver in a couple of years, we'll get the Millionaires versus the Metropolitans. But yeah, it will be interesting. I think tonight is a must-win game, basically, versus Montreal. You can't lose to Montreal. Minnesota, you want to beat the Western Conference teams, but that one, I don't think that they will win that one. But I think they have a chance against the New York Rangers to end it. And yeah, they need to walk away with 4 of 6 points here.
Mm-hmm. I'm really looking forward to tonight. It's going to be honestly a historic game. This is the first time Montreal and Seattle have faced off in a professional hockey game in what was the last 1919 would it have been?
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that's right, but a long time ago. So this is a long time in the making.
It's the rematch of the 1917 Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and they met again in, wasn't it 1919? They met again in the Stanley Cup, but it couldn't be finished because of the Spanish flu. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it would have been fun if Carey Price was in net for the Canadians. I think that would have been a bit of a throwback to those expansion draft days when the Carey Price to Kraken debate was on. But maybe we'll get that another night. But Sean, what do you think the keys are to the Kraken doing well on this homestand?
Well, first off, in terms of Carey Price, all the best to him on getting well.
Yes.
Doing what he has to do first and foremost, his family. I'm gonna hit you with some quick math. Adam says 4 points. I'm gonna subtract 1. I think they're gonna come out of it with 3. Quick math with Sean, and I think that in this order, I think they could and should beat the Canadians at this point. I think the Wild are gonna have the edge, and the Rangers are the biggest question mark for me, as you guys said. Having watched the Rangers closely, I think there's either Artemi Panarin's hurt, no one knows, or he's lacking confidence. He's not making passes that he could make in his sleep. Him and Zibanejad have combined for 2 goals. Now, granted, they are assisting on some. I think Zibanejad might be at a point per game, but it's just not the same Artemi, and that's the catalyst for these Rangers. Fox is going to be Fox. Shesterkin's been playing really well, even in that loss last night or 2 nights ago from when our listeners are going to be hearing it. I think that they really need to make a statement against the Canadians because I don't know how I feel about their matchup against the Wild. I'm thinking it'll be win, loss, overtime loss to the Rangers.
All right. Yeah, this is going to be what these 3 games here are going to really determine how the Kraken, potentially how they compete for the rest of the season, because now they've had quite a few games now to kind of start figuring out their chemistry. I still think the line should be juggled with a bit, and I'm sure Dave Hackstall will be doing that. But these 3 games are going to mean a lot to the Kraken. So this could be really make or break how their season turns out. And if they can do well on this homestand, maybe that gives them confidence. Like Vegas had a lot of Vegas's success in that first season had to do with these guys just coming together and bonding, and they found chemistry that no one even knew would be there. So maybe the Kraken are just late on that, or maybe this is just looking forward to next off season, like you said earlier.
They definitely need competitive games. Now they can't, whether it's blowing out Montreal 5-0, that's not going to help them. I don't think, maybe get some confidence up, but they need to be competing early in the season because any team can have an off night and you can blow them out 5-0. It's the NHL. Anything can happen, but it's the games that are going to show what you're made of are the games that you're going to win 4-2, that fourth being an empty netter, 3-1. The games that we projected that they were going to be playing as a defensively built team, which I think is out the window at this point. I don't have the exact numbers on goals against, but it's not good. So I definitely think that, they have to be close games because that's where you're going to grow. Anyone can have an on night, anyone can have an off night. That's where you show your guts. That's where you show your grit, and that's where you show your character. And we touched on it earlier. 1 year left for Giordano's contract. Whether he's here for a year and moves on, a year and retires, that's the guy you want leading the helm in those situations because he's got that. He's got grit, guts, and character. And while grit and guts may be synonymous, we're going to roll with that point.
And to answer your question, Sean, they're minus 10 goal differential, 13 goals for 23 goals against at all strengths this season.
Thank you.
Yeah. The Kraken. Yeah.
Definitely a lot of room for improvement, and these games are going to be exciting to watch. I was also just thinking if we've got any players who were taken by the Kraken who are going to be against their former teams, and I think the only one we're going to get is Carson Soucy against the Minnesota Wild, but Cale Fleury is obviously down in the AHL, so he won't be there against the Canadians, and then Colin Blackwell is still out, so that Rangers game.
Colin Blackwell, who I am very high on as both a person because of the adversity he's gone through to get to where he is, and his play. You put him anywhere on that Rangers team last year. He was contributing with Panarin. He was contributing on the fourth line. He was killing penalties, I'm pretty sure, and I think he got some power play time as well. I feel like we never heard anything about him. Not at all. Like, not leading up to it, a little bit now. I've seen him on their Twitter. Where's he slot into this lineup and who gets bumped? I mentioned it the other day. I booted up NHL 22 and I'm like trying to look at it because that was when Gord was still out and Fleury was starting in that starting lineup. Who's getting bumped? Like, how are we making this? Who are you taking out of that lineup to get him in there now? You already had to juggle it because Gord came back. It's interesting to see how they're going to handle that.
Yeah, there's no proper answer, really. Yeah. Like nobody has really earned their spot in the lineup, which is a problem. So anybody can be taken out any night.
I think Donskoy, as you mentioned, you got to think Gord's safe, McCann leading scorer if I recall, and Tanev. At least I think they would be safe. But even Schwartz and Eberle, man, like I am concerned. I would be concerned if I was in the front office. I'd be very concerned if I was in the front office and they, let alone tonight and the next game, if they come out of this homestand without a goal. I think they've combined for 3 points, but they come out without a goal. That's going to be very concerning. Very, very concerning.
Yeah, they definitely need to turn it around. And like you guys mentioned, I think that the roster spots are fluid right now. So when Colin Blackwell comes back or if other players are given opportunities, I think we could still see a lot of movement around who the Kraken are playing. I also found it very interesting. Barre Boulet going back to Tampa Bay. So we put him on waivers and he's gone now. And it actually threw me off because I thought I'd tune into the Sabres Lightning game and I heard Barre Boulet and I was like, oh my gosh. So he's in the lineup for the Lightning now. So he played 2 quick games with Seattle and he's back. So
I don't like that loss. I don't really like that loss.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
Well, before we do wrap up here, I'm going to give out a little bit of a tidbit for Sunday. And that is that we get the first double dip on Sunday if you are in the city of Seattle. So usually what happens is that in August you get a Seahawks game and a Mariners game, but on Sunday you get a 1:05 p.m. start, Seahawks versus Jaguars at Lumen Field, and then a 6 p.m. Seattle Kraken at New York Rangers game at Climate Pledge Arena. So I'm expecting that we're going to hear quite a lot of people calling in sick Monday, no voice, a little bit hungover, something like that. Like this is like the ultimate sports day in Seattle. The only thing that would be better is if, you had a Mariners game as well, but that would mean that the Mariners actually have to make the playoffs, which, as we know, seems impossible. But yeah, this is exactly what they wanted in Seattle. I know that the football game is potentially going to be a dud because just watching the Monday nighter yesterday was painful. But this is going to be awesome to watch how many people transition from the Seahawks game to the Kraken game.
Is that PM? Is that Eastern or Pacific time?
Pacific time, Seattle time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That would be wild. And hey, if the Seahawks somehow do pull out a win and that crowd comes straight over to Climate Pledge Arena fired up from that, looking for another win.
Honestly,
I mean, win or lose for the Seahawks, I think it'll be amazing for them to be able to go from a football game onto their new hockey team. So Sunday will be an exciting day in Seattle.
Oh my goodness. If we're about to wrap, I got one quick note I want to put out there.
Go for it.
Yeah, so Halloween coming up. So to all our listeners, enjoy, stay safe, go all out on your costume. I'm like semi cop out, probably gonna end up in some hockey gear. Though I have a guitar and a little something I could throw together. It really depends on a couple factors, but definitely have fun, stay safe. I enjoy Kit Kats personally. I don't know what you guys are into. Adam, Tom.
I'll eat anything, honestly. Any candy.
Oh, those little arrow bars, melt in your mouth.
Arrow bars are good.
I have
And
no
I do
idea.
like Kit Kat.
Oh, they don't have them in the States, I don't think.
Oh man,
Aero bars aren't in the States?
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
You
Yeah,
guys are missing out. Oh my gosh. There we
the
go.
lone American here just at a disadvantage.
Hey, I'm sure you guys have a lot of more stuff than we don't have here in Canada. All
We'll
right.
compare. We'll compare off air.
Yeah, maybe we just come on and bring a bunch of Canadian and American candies and we compare them one day.
That segment.
All right, we will wrap things up. Yeah, like Sean said, everyone enjoy Halloween. Hopefully you've got some exciting costumes. You can even tweet them to us now that we have our at What's Kraken show on Twitter. We've got our account up and running now. So yeah, and we'll see you next week. So thank you for tuning into this week's episode of THW What's Kraken. We hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to next week as we'll be breaking down any Seattle Kraken news and rumors that come up over the next few days. Again, make sure to check out our written work at thehockeywriters.com and follow the show on Twitter at What's Kraken Show, as well as our personal account at Tom Pepper, at Raggio9124, and at Adam K. Blatt. From Tom, Sean, and Adam, this has been THW What's Kraken.